So people would come from all over, they'd camp out, not the cave. They wanted to see the light bulbs hanging out here. It was new technology, and they'd never seen light bulbs before. Springfield didn't get electricity until about the 1930s. So this was something to come and see. And it's a great way to see light bulbs, but they don't do a whole lot for the cave. So if you look at that far wall over there, they cast some shadows and everything sort of looks like melted peanut butter in here. It's not very interesting. So in the 1970s, we brought in a lighting expert, installed indirect lighting. We moved these light bulbs to the ground. And today, we see the cave like this. Makes a difference in here. Now you see all those colors and textures that we have. It doesn't all just look the same. Now we've got a couple of sinkholes up ahead, and we're going to stop briefly at the first sinkhole before we head up to the second. This sinkhole's about 25 feet deep, heads down to our lower level. And you'll get a better look at that up ahead. Sinkholes form the same way the cave does. That water finding weak spots in the rock, dissolving it away, pulling material down with it. So we're gonna head up to that second sinkhole and take a look down at that lower level.
Oh my.
And this is our second sinkhole. You can stand up again if you need to. And this sinkhole is about 35 to 40 feet deep. It looks down into our lower level. Now, if we had water in here today, this is where we would see it. We get water from the surface through other sinkholes about 3 miles away. That is our recharge area. It recharges the cave with water. So with enough rain, that water would come into the cave here under the bridge, flow this direction, connect to that other sinkhole, and it all discharges at Indian Spring. And that's right down the hill from the visitor center on the banks of the Little Sac River. So all the water flows through the cave and to the river. Now we really only get water in here in the spring after heavy rains. So a couple months out of the year, we might see water flowing through here. Sometimes we get a lot of water in the cave. Last year, beginning of May, we had about 6 inches of rain in 48 hours. We had water in here all the way up here under the bridges.
Oh,
That high water line right there.
wow.
Now, at that time, we also had about 3 feet of water in the auditorium where we stopped earlier. No Jeep tours. No, that doesn't work. And we had to wait for the auditorium to drain out, and that took about 3 days. So we had water flowing through here for quite a while after that. Now, down here in this lower level, it's all pretty much 18 inches high, 3 feet wide. It's very small down there. But you head to the right, that goes out to the spring, and to the left, under the bridge, about a half mile back, there are a couple of permanent pools of water. And they don't evaporate, so even when there's no water flowing through here, there's still water in those pools. That's where we have some of the animals that live in here. One of them is on the endangered species list, and that one's the Ozark cavefish. It's only found in a few caves in the area. We also have the bristly crayfish or crawdad, and a salamander called the grotto salamander. They're all very small, they're only a few inches long, they're completely white and completely blind, since they spend their whole lives in the dark. So that's what we've got down there in that lower level. What kind of animals do you think we find up here?
Bats.
Yeah, we do have bats in the cave. We don't have a whole lot of them. We've only got a population of about 20. They're called tricolored bats. They are the size of the end of my thumb. Their wingspan's about 8 to 10 inches or so, and they weigh as much as a quarter. Smallest bats in Missouri. They're also solitary bats, so we don't get those big colonies you see in other caves. You only ever find one at a time in here. They come in here to hibernate, and the rest of the year they're out in the trees. Did you guys want to see a bat today?
Sure.
Yeah? Well, we've got one in here.
Oh, cool.
Now, I've got a red light, so we're not going to wake him up. So he is right up here. That little guy right there.
Oh my.
You see him?
I do.
Yeah, he's not very big.
Get the telephoto on him.
You guys see him back here? It's a little harder to see him in the back. Yeah, okay. Kind of right behind that rock there.
I see him move.
Do you guys have any questions? No? Just gonna watch the bat for a while as he sleeps? 'Cause he's gonna sleep for a while.
He stretched a second
You
ago.
must not bother him, I guess.
Try not to.
What do they eat?
The bats,
Yes.
mosquitoes, and they eat insects, aquatic insects usually. So he's in here to sleep. We'll see if he stays all winter. It's still a little early for him to be in here. But they'll be outside at dusk eating all those insects. Okay. Do you think you could have found him?
No.
A little hard to find on occasion. We're gonna head on and we'll learn more about the water in the cave. So right now, we are about a half mile back in the cave and 120 feet below the surface. So we drove in under the parking lot, we went under that county road and into the hillside. The land went up over us and the cave does extend back another 150 feet or so behind the screen before it dead ends in a clay wall. And we can't go any further than that. Now we've got a short movie here.
We're doing some water sampling here at the Spring that Drains fantastic Caverns. These are some of our samplers. A spring is the drainage point for a cave system. What I want to do today is give you a look at the whole drainage system, and it's going to be a good day for doing it because we have had a lot of rain the past couple days. Why the spring is so large. Water goes into the cave system through things like sinkholes and then moves through the cave and discharges here at the spring. The flow of the spring 3/4 of the runoff water in the Ozarks moves into cave systems. We're a mile from the spring here at a vertical entrance into the fantastic system.
This is one of the most open sinkholes in the whole fantastic cavern system. It's so open, in fact, the walnuts that wash in here make it all the way through to the cave. I could do without all the drips, I think, but that's the way the water gets in. And of course, that's not only does water get in that way, that's the way food gets in for the cave animals and contaminants get in too. I believe the jeeps get in some way other than that, though. Off-road! Off-road! The cave is here because limestone can be dissolved by water. This piece of limestone weighs about 1 pound. There is this much limestone dissolved in every 1,000 gallons of water discharging from the spring today. You can imagine the enormous volumes of water and long periods of time required to form the cave. Basically, a cave is a drained spring system. Since caves are part of spring systems, storms can flood them and make them dangerous. This isn't your normal Ozark float trip. The fish, the crayfish, and most of the other cave animals are tiny, white, and blind. Although they spend their entire lives in the cave, they depend on the surface for their food. When contaminants come in from the surface, they threaten the life here. With cave systems, whatever goes down comes up. Pollution threatens all life. By studying groundwater and by working to protect its quality, we can protect the beauty of the cave and preserve our quality of life.
Now, the cave was found in 1862, but it wasn't explored until 5 years later. In 1867, John Knox put an ad in the Springfield newspaper asking for cave explorers to come explore his cave. That ad was answered by the Springfield Athletics Club. They were seasoned cave explorers, and they'd been in several caves in the area before, and they knew what they were doing. But John got a little bit of a surprise when they showed up at his door. He had 12 young women ready to explore his cave. Now, they were very excited. They'd never been first to explore a cave, so naturally, they had to write their names on the wall. And we're gonna head back, and I'll show you where those names are written.
Has that been refurbished?
Give me just a second. Watch your heads, passenger side. A little low right there. Now, those names. They wrote them with charcoal, right? Mix charcoal and oil or something to make a paint. But if you look at where they wrote them, they picked a nice flat spot, that flowstone goes around it. So that tells you there's never been water running over it. Constant 60 degrees, no sunlight. There's nothing to weather it. So caves are a really good place for preservation.
Sure.
Now, the cave was found in 1862. What was going on in America at that time? Middle of the American Civil War. Civil War ran from 1860 to 1865. So when John found the cave, 1862, he covered the entrance with brush, and he didn't tell anyone about it. He kept that a secret. So at that time, Missouri was a battleground state, and either side, the Union or the Confederacy, they could have come in and taken his land, his house, all his resources, including the cave. They wanted caves, not just for storage or shelter, but because they had something they needed. They wanted caves that were rich in nitrates, and these are usually found in large bat populations for the bat guano, all that bat poop. And we don't have a lot of bats, so not a lot of guano, but they would have come in looking anyways, and they would have taken that soil, put it in a large vat like this, called a leaching bath, and they pour water over that, over and over again to get all the nitrates out, and that would come out at the bottom as a muddy slurry, and they take that outside, pour it into a kettle over an open flame, and boil it down. They'd add a little wood ash, and as that water evaporated, and they'd get small white crystals forming along the bottom and the rim, and these were potassium nitrate, and you probably know it better as saltpeter. So they'd grind up that saltpeter, mix it with sulfur and charcoal, and what does that make?
Gunpowder.
Yeah, gunpowder. Gunpowder was in short supply during the Civil War. Everybody wanted it. So if anyone found out John Knox had a cave on his land, and they would have come in here looking for something we don't even have, probably destroying the cave in the process. So because he hid it, he actually protected his livelihood and the cave. By 1867, the war was over, and those young women could come in and explore the cave for the first time. Now, the auditorium here, it's got an interesting history. In the 1920s, during Prohibition, this was an illegal speakeasy, nightclub. Yeah, it was a big old party down here. Alcohol, gambling, music. Only lasted a few years. One bootlegger shot another. Yeah, ruined it for everyone. And sheriff couldn't ignore that. He had to shut it down at that point. And in the 1960s, this stage was built, and we actually had music acts here on Saturday nights. It was a radio broadcast called Farmerama. We had a lot of big names in country music in. Buck Owens and Ray Price. The Presley Country Jubilee from Branson. They got their start on this very stage. So a lot of interesting things over the years. And you can still see the stage lights. If you look up, they're still up there. You can just follow them around right up there. Still there. We've talked about how water formed the cave and all the formations in here. We're gonna go take a look at some of the damage that water can do to a cave. We do have low spots on the way, so driver's side, watch your heads. Right
Okay.
here on the driver's side. Keep watching those heads. It gets lower through here. It's getting lower. And lower.
Dang. My, that's quite a...
Now, all this rock over here, all along here, at one point in time, that all used to be part of the ceiling. We call this a breakdown, and what happened, the cave was full of water at one point, got in along cracks and joints in the rock, saturating it, weakening it, and when that water drained out, the ceiling couldn't support itself anymore, so it collapsed. And this happened several times. That water would rise and fall. So we've got 3 areas of collapse in here. The first is this shelf right here overhead, right there. Second, right here. And the last is all the way up there on the ceiling. Now, this has reached the point of stability. So this is dome shape. It's very stable. We don't need to worry about it collapsing anymore. You believe me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good. For those of you who don't, you remember how slow everything grows in here. That 1 cubic inch every 100 years, that ice cube. You can always look how big all these formations are. So these have been growing a very long time, and that tells us this collapse is one of the earlier things that happened in the formation of the cave. So this all fell before any of these started growing. That helps, right? Yes? Yes, we're all good? Good. Now, we're going to head on through there, and as we do, look up. You'll see the highest concentration of stalactites in the cave. Our next stop's got some of the largest and prettiest formations. It's also the first area the explorers came to when they came in, and I'm going to show you how they would have seen that in 1867. Make sure you look up.
Oh, my.
Hold any flashes or bright lights or anything. We'll get the lights turned on in just a couple of minutes. But first, 1867, when they explored in here, they used candle lanterns for light. Something like this. It's just a candle and tin can. It's very simple, but it directs the light. You're not being blinded by an open flame. And it protects it from any drips of water, so you don't find yourself in the dark back here. It's basically a flashlight, completely adjustable, no batteries required. Now I'm going to walk the path that they would have walked at that time. So try to imagine you're one of the first people in the cave. No one's ever been in here before. You don't know what you're going to find. And this is all the light you have to see where you're going. But also take a look around and see all the formations that we have in here. So you want to look at everywhere, back this way. And they walked down right along here, and this little candle lantern, it's a decent amount of light. It's enough to see where I'm going, but it's not really enough to appreciate how pretty these formations really are. And you have to get right up on it to see those calcite crystals sparkle. So they used candle lanterns in here for about 20 years before the lights were put in. And today, we see the cave like this. We call these two the twin
Is your Jeep propane
It
powered?
is propane, yes. So it's putting out water vapor and carbon dioxide.
Right. And no smell.
Yeah. Now, as we head out, I am going to get very close to this driver's side wall up here. Right up here. This is the lowest point in the cave. So if you're on the driver's side, congratulations. You get to play a game of limbo with me. You will need to duck. I will be ducking as well.
Oh.
Clears the corner of the Jeep here by just a few inches. So if anybody needs to rearrange, now's the time.
I can duck.
We all good with ducking on the driver's side?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be in your
Here
lap.
we go. Watch your hands. Very low through here. Low ceiling. Nice and low.
And we're-
Watch out for this rock right there. That jumps out a little bit. Right there.
Well, we're all much better friends.
Watch your heads on the exit. It's a little low in places there. Thank you, John. Watch your head.
Little low. Sunglasses.
Now, the original entrance to the cave. Right back here. That little hole right there. That is the original entrance.
Wow.
Now, that's about 18 inches high. It's a couple feet wide. And you would have crawled for about 20 feet before standing up in there. So that's where the dog went in. That's where John went in and got his dog. That is also where those first explorers went in. They crawled through that hole as well. We don't know much about them. We know what they wrote on the wall. That's about it.
Name.
We don't know what they look like. They didn't take a picture for us. No selfies in 1867. I know, it's very disappointing. But we do have pictures of you, our most recent explorers through Fantastic Caverns. So do me a favor and hold up those ticket packets again, one more time, whoever's got those. And these are our gift to you. They are free. You can make copies of them. Do whatever you need to with them. Who's got those ticket packets? I got one here, one per ticket packet. You can make as many copies as you need to. Yep, right over there. All right. Any last questions?
How much concrete did you use to build this
So,
road?
okay, for the most part, the roads in there's cave floor. It's compressed clay. They brought in gravel for traction, leveled it out. The concrete itself, probably not as much as you think. There's a few spots, there's some curbs that were put in. But as far as poured concrete for like the road part, there's one part there in the auditorium as we went in because when it floods, that water's flowing over, it would tear it up. And then at the back where we turned around, because we're turning around all the time and would tear up the floor. Those are the only places where we've got poured concrete for the road.
So it's basically just a big open flat
Yes,
area.
pretty much.
Did they hand dig it? The roads?
They're not really. I mean, they didn't
they
really
brought
dig
in
any of
little-
it. It's just they leveled it out and made it so we could drive it safely. And that's what a lot of that, the gravel's in there for as well.
Certainly pops.
Yep. Anything else?
Yeah, I want a copy of it.
Very good job, Heather.